Hello students, welcome to the Veranda IAS. From the current affairs of economy, in this session we are going to discuss about the Pandora Papers. The learning objective of this particular session will be to analyze the Pandora Papers, then examine the Pandora Papers in news. Then further we will discuss the grey areas of Indian taxation, and then we will explain the initiatives of government in Pandora Paper. Then further, let's first introduce ourselves to the Pandora Papers. Now friends, there is a lot of black money, or there are people who always are interested into tax evasions. Despite having lot amount of money, they will always think that we should be evading the tax, and most of the cases when it is the incident is basically related to the illegal ways in which the money has been earned, people will try to dump the money in somewhere. Now in earlier days they used to dump in grounds and all those things, but nowadays you cannot just do that. So there are newer ways of dumping this money, and that is how one of the ways of dumping this money in a legal form and in a very safe format is the Pandora Papers all about. So we will discuss as to how the money is offshore, how the money is shipped from one location to another location, and how it is actually a legal entity, protected entity, and how with the legal loopholes it is being realized, or it is being utilized by some of the celebrities even. Again, there are accusations. Some say that this is a legal way. On our part, we have disclosed this when it came to the tax assessments and all those things. And for some, there are issues going on. So even government is investigating all about details. But this came as a leak, and this was done with a very significant newspaper groups and journalists of the world. They worked together, they worked tirelessly for a few days and then few years actually, and out of that they were able to bring out that these Pandora Papers, or the whole picture of how much money is being put down in these tax havens. So let's see what it is all about. The Pandora Papers show how trusts are used in combination with offshore entities created solely for purpose of storing investments and other assets by business dynasties and ultra wealthy people. So why they have to do that? Because they want to evade the tax. Either they want to evade the tax, or their money is a black money. That is, it is not illegally acquired. So that is how it is done. So what it is Pandora Paper? It shows how the trusts are used in combination with offshore entities created solely for the purpose of storing investment and other assets by business dynasts and the ultra wealthy people. Further, the trusts can be established in the well-known tax havens with favorable tax rates. So let's say in India, if you earn more than 10 lakh rupees or up to about 10 lakh rupees, you have to pay 30% as the tax. Now, if think about a person who is earning 100 crores, so for 100 crores, he will have to pay 30 crores. Now, he will try to find out whether there is some system where I can pay only 10% or 5%. So there are certain regions, certain countries which will allow that. So we'll see that. So established in well-known tax havens with favorable tax rates, for example, Samoa, Belize, Panama, and the British Virgin Islands. So Panama Papers were also there, then came the Pandora Papers. So these are the tax havens where with the nominal fees and all those things you can actually store your money or the investment. They show how the wealthy set up multi-layered trust arrangements for estate planning in nations that are weakly regulated for tax reasons but have strict secrecy rules. So tax evasion is allowed over there, but they have a stricter regulations when it comes to the secrecy, so that they will not share the information with you. Like as we used to talk about the same things when it came to the Swiss banks. So we used to say that in Swiss bank people have the money, and now Swiss banks also are not entitled to give the information. They will not give the information, and so were these tax havens also. They have the banks over there, and they will not release any information about that. So they have tax, they do not regulate the tax mechanism, or they have the very weak regulations on the tax, but they have strict secrecy rules. Further, after nations were obliged to tighten rules on such offshore corporations due to mounting worries about money laundering, terrorism funding, and tax avoidance, businesses have created a new normal. That is new normal. So earlier money launderings and all those things used to happen. But then because of the terrorist activities and the tax avoidances and all those things, governments had to tighten the norms of taxes and all those things, or they have to look into details as to where the money is going and where it is coming, specifically with regards to the terrorism activities. Everyone had to check whether the money is not going for the terrorist activities. Now, in that case, what happened? The wealthy businessmen who were laundering the monies and doing the kind of things, transferring it into black money, avoiding the taxes. Now they were also caught in that case. Now they had to find a new way to dump their money, and the new normal or new way of dumping that money is by avoiding the taxes and creating these trusts in these kind of countries. Now, the Panama Paradise Papers are mostly concerned with the people and companies setting up offshore organizations. And offshore organizations are what these, just you create a corporation over there in that country. Again, it will not be legal, it will not be actually functioning. Let's say I am creating a company, or a shell company, generally we call company in Panama. But what is that company actually producing? It is not producing anything. I have just created it on paper, and what I will do, I will show the income of whatever money I am receiving, either from India or from other sources. What I will do, I will show that as the income of that company. And what I will do, again, I will show that as income first thing. Then that country does not have that tax regulations, or tax rates are not that high. So obviously I will not have to pay significant amount of money over there. So those actually benefit me. Now these type of Panama islands and all those things, this are only surviving on these things. It's not only about India, it's all about the world's richest people. They have found these ways. Further, what was the Pandora Papers in the news? So in October 2021, the government has vowed an inquiry into Pandora Papers revelations and has promised to take necessary legal action in such circumstances, according to the Finance Ministry. So overall, Pandora Papers were leaked by certain journalist groups. Once the papers were leaked, certain name came out. So obviously the government had to respond that if something illegal is done, we will inquire and we will take the necessary actions against that. So that was the news, and that's why we are studying this. So the ministry stated inquiries into incidents of Pandora files leaks emerging in the media will be watched by a multi-agency group, notwithstanding the fact that just a few Indians have been named in the papers so far. So as of now, few Indians are named, but again there are chances that few others will be added. So overall, we can say the ministry has stated that they will acquire, they will do the research, they will inquire about these things, and they will find the mechanism. If something illegal is done, we will take the action. So simple sense. So that was the news, and that's why we are learning about it. Further, among the 300 Indians listed on the list so far are Anil Ambani, Vinod Adani, Jackie Shroff, Kiran Muzumdar Shah, Neera Radia, Sachin Tendulkar and Satish Sharma. So these are all the big celebrities who have the names in Pandora Papers, and they have taken certain kind of, they have created the trust and they have dumped their money over there. Now when it came to Sachin Tendulkar, he said that this has been legally done. Okay, so then again, there are ways to do that legally also, but it is the government's prerogative to investigate that and find out the real answers. Now, the Pandora Papers are a collection of 11.9 million leaked documents. So all those journalists had to study those 11.9 documents. It was an international collaboration between the group of journalists from 14 multinational corporate services businesses that created over 29,000 off-the-shelf corporations and private trusts. So off-the-shelf corporation basically means that they are just the dummy companies or dummy corporations. They do not produce any other thing. They are just existing on the paper. So see the number, 29,000 off-shelf corporation registered in those islands or tax havens. Now, what are the gray areas of Indian taxation? Okay, now this happens because there are areas, there is a scope for tax evasion, or there are certain loopholes in Indian taxation method. So we will see that. Now the income tax department is in battle with the offshore trusts in few ambiguous areas of taxes. Now these trusts exist. Now income tax has to find out a way, legal ways as to how to deal with them. The residents of India must now reveal their overseas financial interest and assets under the black money, undisclosed foreign income and assets. So black money is basically what? It is undisclosed foreign income and assets. So they have to show or reveal whatever assets they have in the other countries. So obviously with that we'll get an idea. So that is made compulsory. And imposition of Tax Act 2015. It is not obligatory for non-resident Indians to do so. So now it is compulsory for Indians, but it is not compulsory for non-resident Indians. And who is the non-resident Indians? So it is basically a person who does not live in India for a particular period of time, but he is Indian. He holds the Indian passport. As because in India we have only one citizenship, so the NRIs are also Indians. It is just for the purpose of calculating the income tax, that if a person is staying out of India for this particular amount of time, then he doesn't have to pay the income tax in India. That is the only criteria of defining the NRIs. So here, their residents are asked to disclose their assets, but it is not applicable to NRIs. Now further, if the trustee is an Indian resident, the IT department may regard an offshore trust to be a resident of India for tax reasons. So that can be done. Further, if the tax authority determines that the trustee is accepting orders from a resident Indian, the trust may be regarded as a resident of India for the tax reasons. So that also can be done. Further, now the most important point is, what are the initiatives that can be taken? Initiative of the government in the Pandora Papers, or what is the government initiatives? Now government will investigate, that is what the government has stated, but on what basis the government can take the action? So here the legislative action can be taken under the following criteria. So there are certain laws which will look into that such things do not happen. So there is a law, the Fugitive Economic Offenders Act 2018, under which you can take the action. Then the Central Goods and Services Tax Act 2017. Then the Benami Transactions Prohibition Amendment Act 2016 is there. The Black Money, Undisclosed Foreign Income and Assets and Imposition of Tax Act 2015. Now then we had Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So all these are legislative frameworks to deal with the incidents like that of the Pandora Papers. So these are the acts under which you can act. Further, now, when it comes to the international cooperation, so there are, regarding this kind of things like Pandora Papers and the trust and the offshore and off-shelf accounts. So we have double taxation avoidance agreements, which we have learned in another session. Then we have automatic exchange of information, which will share the information. Then we have Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act of United States of America. So this is some of the agreements that we have done to have an international cooperation in terms of money laundering, in terms of taking action in tax evasions and all those things. So these are what you can say initiatives of government in Pandora Papers. Now these initiatives just simply are what, if they are found guilty, or if the inquiry states that they have done something wrong, then under these sections their action can be taken. So to summarize what we have learned about the Pandora Papers, then we studied Pandora Papers in the news, then we studied the grey areas of Indian taxation, and then we studied the initiative of government in the Pandora Paper. So with that, I hope you have understood whatever we have discussed in this particular session. That's it for this session. See you in another one. Thank you.